Hi everyone, it's Dinnery here from Premier Injuries with your injury preview heading into game week 13. Thanks for watching. It's been an extremely busy international break. We've had up to 28 players flagged as potential doubts heading into this game weekend. And for a lot of players, for a lot of FPL managers, it's been a bit of a minefield on who will actually pull through and who's actually going to miss out. The good news, of those 28 players, 82% are expected to be involved this weekend, or 23, in the old money. So there's only 5 of those players who were injured 2 weeks ago are expected to miss out, and 4 of those 5 are all going to be pretty sort of long term, at least a month. Benjamin Mendy, he's had knee surgery on his meniscus, with an expected timeline of around 3 months. We have Adam Smith. He picked up again a cartilage tear at St James's Park in a tackle with Matt Ritchie. That's probably going to rule him out for around 3 months. We have Kieran Trippier. That's not so bad. It's a groin injury. There's a potential that he could return in maybe game week 14. Huddersfield Town lost their fullback, Christopher Lowe. Again, it looked quite a serious shoulder injury to start with, but he met with a specialist. He does not require surgery, so there's a chance that he can maybe return next month. So yeah, with no further ado, I'll go straight into the previews. So with Wolves facing Huddersfield this weekend, I've had a lot of questions with regards to the fitness of Matt Doherty. As we all know, the Terriers certainly aren't pulling up any trees in front of goal, the lowest scorer in the top flight. So defensive options for Wolves this weekend look to be very appealing. For those that don't know, Matt Doherty picked up a facial injury at the Emirates back in game week 12, and a collision left him with a slight cut under his right eye on the cheekbone there, and it was an injury which actually forced his withdrawal from the Republic of Ireland squad. Now, Martin O'Neill mentioned that Doherty would be meeting with a specialist to look at the problem, but there's been very little there had been very little in terms of updates since then, until Friday's press conference when Nuno Espirito basically confirmed that Doherty is back with the group and he has been training. He isn't 100%, but they still have Saturday sessions to go, and he will be part of the squad, and I fully expect him to start against Huddersfield Town on Sunday, which is great news. But elsewhere, if you're looking for a differential, Ruben Vinagre, ownership, less than 0.1%, coming in at 4.3 million, looks another great option. Unfortunately, Jonny on the left picked up a knee ligament injury playing for Spain last weekend. That initial scan with the national team revealed a slight strain, and they put initial, the timeline on that potentially return to play is around about 5 to 6 weeks. I would take that with a pinch of salt at this moment in time. Ideally, a return to play before the end of the year would be good, but they certainly haven't ruled out the prospect of surgery completely at this stage. Santos, Nuno Santos said that we're hopeful, and it doesn't look like he'll need an operation, but like I say, that cannot be completely ruled out at this stage. So even worst case scenario, we're still looking at maybe 5 or 6 weeks, and Ruben Vinagre should get a good run in the team. Admittedly, I don't know a great deal about him, but a quick flick through of a few YouTube videos of the player, and he looks quite an exciting prospect. He's got some good heritage with his involvement at Monaco, so he might be one to go for this weekend. Another player who's featured quite heavily on my timeline during the build up to game week 13 is Richarlison. You know, he's been managing a bit of an ongoing ankle problem for the last couple of weeks. In fact, in game weeks 11 and 12, he was forced off after taking heavy knocks on the ankle. But he did join up with the Brazil squad. He did feature for them. So with regards to that, it isn't really an issue. Like I say, he's got some good minutes under his belt, and he got another goal. So confidence is obviously high. A lot of the questions came out because of some training pictures from Finch Farm on Thursday, and Richarlison wasn't part of those training group on the pitches, and that, you know, essentially that just come down to because he had been involved on international duty, and he was either working away from the main group or given some additional time off. So there are, you know, there's no problem there. He will be a part of the matchday squad, and he will be somebody that I'll probably looking to captain this weekend against Cardiff. You know, despite their recent upturn in form, you know, I see Everton getting a job done here, and you know, if anybody's going to score, then, you know, Richarlison's for me is going to be there or thereabouts. There was also good news with regards to Gylfi Sigurdsson and Andre Gomez. Sigurdsson picked up a bit of a horrendous ankle problem in a particularly bad tackle against Chelsea by Jorginho, who was lucky to stay on the pitch as it happens. He picked that up in the first half and managed to continue until deep into the second half, which often you can do at the time, but it's normally when you know, post match, when the swelling starts to occur, and indeed that's what happened. He did join up with the national team with Iceland, but he was quickly released, and Marco Silva was uncertain, you know, 10 days ago whether Sigurdsson would actually be able to recover in time. The good news was he was training individually on Wednesday, back on the training pitches, and he rejoined the group on Thursday, so there's absolutely no issues with him. And Andre Gomez is another one. He picked up a heavy knock, but it was mainly sort of bruising to the leg. I'm not sure if it was a bit of a dead leg or not, but you know, that ruled him out of the Portugal squad. And he returned to Finch Farm, and he's had treatment, but he's been with the group as well. Marco Silva's got a few sort of selection headaches ahead of the game, and one of those being the return of Kurt Zouma. He wasn't involved against Chelsea because it was, you know, under the terms of his loan agreement. He was unavailable, and that handed Yerry Mina his first start of the season. So, you know, big money summer signing, and he come in and done a good job, offers some good goal threat for a defender. So it'll be interesting to see who lines up alongside Michael Keane on Saturday at Goodison Park. Now, for me, European action will have a part to play this weekend in terms of team selection. First of all, if you want to focus on maybe Manchester United, they've got young boys midweek, and they can't really afford any slip-ups against them. Mourinho, in his own words, says he's got a huge squad to choose from. So despite a number of players who have been, you know, flagged as potential injury absentees, up to 8 players were missing or at risk of missing out. You know, it looks like we've got pretty much a full strength squad. Luke Shaw being the only guaranteed player to miss out. He picked up his 5th caution of the season back in week 12, so he's definitely out of the game. And Mourinho's already sort of gives some kind of inclination on how he's going to line up. He's already stated that Marouane Fellaini will get some time, and also there'll be the first appearance since the beginning of October for Antonio Valencia, who scored for Ecuador during the international break. So there's a couple of players there, and also Anthony Martial, banging form, and he was withdrawn from the French squad due to a niggling groin problem. He remained at the Aeon training complex and worked very hard this week, in the words of Mourinho. So he's definitely going to be in from the start, I suspect. You know, but what Mourinho did say, you know, is he going to be available and ready to play sort of 3 high-profile games within the space of a week? Probably not. So I sort of, I expect Mourinho to cut his cloth accordingly. There could be a few surprise selections against Palace. Lukaku is one who I wouldn't expect to see in the starting 11. Maybe minutes from the bench, given his hamstring problems in recent times, with the opportunity to maybe start in Europe, with maybe a view to then maybe coming back into the side, possibly in game week 14. It's a big week for Liverpool. Unfortunately, Jurgen Klopp has got the majority of his squad available at his disposal. Following on from Watford, the Reds travel across to the Parc des Princes to take on Paris Saint-Germain. So again, I think given the depth of his squad and the playing staff available, I expect maybe a few changes this weekend. A couple of the players that he did sort of flag and hint during Friday's press conference was Andrew Robinson for one, and he mentioned that he's had 2 intensive games for Scotland during the international break, and he rejoined the group for the first time on Friday. He also highlighted and singled out Naby Keita, who came back tired, but trained well on Thursday, and I just think maybe just given their exposure to games through the break, those 2 players could be ones that could potentially drop to the bench. I'm very aware of the fact that Robinson has started 11 of the 12 games this season. He missed out, I think it was towards the end of October, maybe the Cardiff game, when he was an unused substitute. And like I say, I think the Paris Saint-Germain game is a big one. So you may look at picking a starting 11, certainly with one eye on that. With the likes of Gomez, Van Dijk, Lovren back in contention, Alexander-Arnold. There's plenty of options there. So and Klopp will probably feel that he's got more than enough to get past Palace, and hopefully get that job done nice and early, and give a few key players sort of rested maybe ahead of that big European tie on Wednesday. So Tottenham have a massive week coming up. A huge game in the Champions League, which is sandwiched between 2 big derbies. First coming up this weekend is Chelsea, and then Arsenal in game week 14. And the news for Mauricio Pochettino isn't great on the injury front. Their problems have been well documented in the press over the last 7 to 10 days. And it particularly focuses around those players who were involved in the World Cup at Russia, around the latter stages. And I think it's a stat that maybe 9 of those 12 players who played in Russia have actually picked up injuries this season to date, and some of them quite serious. If you maybe consider players like Moussa Dembele, out until 2019, Davinson Sanchez, hamstring problem. He's going to be very lucky to return this year. You can also maybe consider the likes of Dele Alli, who's had a couple of hamstring problems. You can go through the team. Kieran Trippier, he picked up a groin problem back in game week 12. Not a serious issue, but enough to keep him out of the internationals, and certainly keep him out of this weekend as well. I would rate him as probably a 50-50 chance for going into game week 14. So there's a few selection issues that Pochettino may need to consider. He's got Alderweireld there in the back. It's who he's going to pair with him this week. Juan Foy, he's had a brilliant month. Played out in Argentina. Got a man of the match performance out there, and he returned along with Eric Lamela and Paulo Gazzaniga on Thursday morning, early doors. So they have been able to get a couple of days training under the belts. And Tottenham got a bit of an unexpected boost this week following the return of Jan Vertonghen. Now he's missed the last couple of months as well with a hamstring problem. An initial timeline suggested had him return to play, you know, around sort of mid-December. So to see him back in contention is a big boost, and like I say, come as a welcome, a nice surprise. But although he's been on the training pitches and involved in you know, with the team, Pochettino wouldn't be drawn on whether Vertonghen comes straight back into the side. I suggest it probably be a late call, and it'll not be, you know, whether he makes the matchday squad, which I think he will. It could just come down to whether he feels he's fit enough and sharp enough to start the game. The last thing you want to do, we don't want any recurrence, any re-injury. You know, if we're looking at soft tissue tears and muscular strains, you know, fatigue will play a major part in that. And you know, and playing against Chelsea in a derby at Wembley on a big pitch, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a baptism of fire there for Vertonghen. So, you know, whether Pochettino decides to err on the side of caution and, you know, maybe introduce him from a bench and gradually look to build up his minutes over the, you know, the coming games and weeks, we'll just have to wait and see. So that's it for another week. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up. If you have any comments, you know, add them below the video and I'll try to get back to as many people as possible. And we'll be back next week. Thanks again.